It's gorgeous, isn't it? It looks beautiful. We got them last year. We got them free, donated by the people who put them out. Well, let me explain what this is. Can you see from the title? Mishneh Torah la Rambam. However, underneath that it says something else. Avodah, Hakorbanot, and Tahara. But if you look in there's more words all around that circle. Good morning, good morning. All around this circle, there's more words. You know, when you guess what those 14 words are? It's hard to read them because they're not bolded. Each volume is going to have a few different ones bolded.
I think they are like the name of the title of the mission.
That's correct. That's right. Avodah. So if you open up the front cover, just the binding. If you look in the binding, yeah, that's right. Open up and look at the binding, the front cover. It has what I gave you yesterday in English. Here you have it in Hebrew. What you have here is a list of the 14 books of the Rambam. You can see the first one's called Sefer HaMada. It's bolded. See that on the top right-hand corner? About after, of course, they have Sefer HaMada, Hilchot Yesodei HaTorah, and Hilchot Deot. 7 chapters. That's what we were learning yesterday. I don't know if you remember that. In the relationships class, we were learning Hilchot Deot, chapter 6. See the table of contents? So if you can count them, there's actually 14 books. All the way down these 2 columns. And you notice that there's some you notice that some of the 14 books are shaded pink. Which ones are shaded pink? Right, from the top, Sefer Avodah, you see the second column. Avodah, Korbanot, and Tahara. Hang on. Isn't that those 3 words on the front cover? Avodah, Korbanot, and Tahara. So what this is volume 3. Take a look. You can see underneath at the top of the second column it says Kerach Gimel. Kerach means volume. Top of the right hand of the column it says Kerach Aleph. There's 4 volumes. This is a set of 4 volumes. The entire 14 books of the Rambam in 4 volumes. They have, each volume has 3 or 4 of the books. And this is volume 3. It's very pretty, huh? It's just really recently published. And you have here at the beginning, at the title, you have the number of chapters in each book. So if you look at Sefer Avodah, the one that's in pink in the top left column, the one that we're holding, right? We're holding Sefer Avodah. How many chapters? 95. And Sefer Korbanot, how many chapters? 45. And how many Sefer Tahara? 144 chapters. That's the biggest one in the whole book. That's the biggest book of the 14. All about purity and impurity.
Doing the 3-pair cycle with the Chabad one.
That's amazing. That's great. Wow, you can learn all the Torah in 1 year. Yeah.
The English translation, at least, I can't read.
Okay, English is it's better than nothing. A lot better than nothing. It's amazing. Great. 3 chapters a day. How long does that take you?
It takes a year to do the whole cycle.
No, but each day.
Yeah.
Each day.
Each day is 3 pairs.
How long does it take you each day?
Probably like an hour.
An hour.
If I really want to talk.
An hour a day, 3 chapters. Amazing. An hour a day, you know all the Torah in 1 year. Sounds like a pretty good deal.
It's a good deal.
Maybe you should consider it, Eov. You're like Chabad also. The Rebbe said so. The Rebbe said so. You got to do it. 3 chapters a day. Finish in 1 year. Amazing. In any case, this volume is volume 3 out of the 4 volumes. It includes Avodah, Korbanot, and Tahara. And I thought, well, this is amazing. Why is it so amazing? Why would I want to have 10 copies of 1 out of 4 volumes? Something's very special about this volume. What's special about this volume is, well, it talks about Avodah, which talks about the Beit HaMikdash, Korbanot, speaks about the offerings in the Beit HaMikdash, and Tahara, all the laws, purity for the Beit HaMikdash. Hey, we're entering the period of Beit HaMikdash. We're talking about the Beit HaMikdash. Maybe we can study some of this. Well, it's all in Hebrew. If you turn the page, open up, you can look, let's say, look at page 1. It's actually going to be page 5. Check it out. Page, where does it actually start? On page 15. This is the beginning. We can start a little bit. Page 15. It doesn't say 15 on the page, it says 16 on the next page. So go to 16 and then go back one. Looks like this. Take a look at this. Everybody got this page? Stephen, help Binyamin over there. Find the right page. You find the right page? Page 15. This is the beginning. We can start. It says, Hilchot Beit HaBechira, Perek Rishon, Aleph, after the lines. In the middle of the page, it says, Yesh mitzvat aseh. There is a positive commandment. There's more books. No? That's it? Perek Aleph. Yeah. Perek means chapter. Perek Rishon, first chapter. Mitzvat aseh la'asot bayit l'Hashem. The Yud stands for Hashem. It's a convention of the printers. It's a positive commandment to make a house for the Lord. Muchan, prepared, liyot makavim bo korbanot, so that we can make the offerings. V'chogegim elav shalosh pa'amim b'shana, and we celebrate there 3 times a year. As it says in the Torah, sheneimar ve'asu li mikdash. So this is the beginning. That's the first halacha in this book out of the 14, the book called Sefer HaAvodah, and these are the laws of the Beit HaMikdash. So that's special. If you look, there's a tiny commentary on the margin. Not tiny, but a small commentary, but primarily it's the words of the Rambam, and it's all minukad. You can see that. So flip a few pages and you see a diagram. Wow. Look on page 21. We have precise measurements of what the altar is supposed to look like on page 21. What's that ramp doing there? It's the big ramp to get up to the Mizbeach. People don't realize how big it was. It was bigger than this room. You walked on top of it there. They walked, you went up the ramp and walked. You can see there's 2 floors. See those little figurines? Some Kohanim walking on the side? Yeah, there's a halfway mark. You can go up a small ramp, but the main one is you go up to the top. What do they have on top of the Mizbeach? On the altar? What was there?
Big old fire.
Big fire. Big bonfire. More than one, actually. They had a few separate bonfires. Lots of good stuff. Turn the page to page 25. This is the famous picture, hand-drawn by the Rambam himself. Well, they redid it, but this is why the Lubavitcher Rebbe understands that the menorah actually was not rounded. Like most of our menorahs, we have the rounded branches. He understood that this picture was not just schematic, although other commentaries disagree. According to the Rebbe, this was actually the way the menorah looked straight. You've been to the old city? Have you seen the golden menorah? They made one out of gold. Very cool. It's rounded. It's not. It's huge. It's very cool. Pure gold. I don't know how they not afraid it's going to get stolen. I guess it's must be heavy. Yeah. Although I did hear that it's hollow. Because it's not solid gold. It is made from pure gold, but the way they did it is I think they poured it on top of a form, and that's how they made it. It's very cool. Anyways, it says next page 26. There's a second altar on the right hand side of page 26. That's the small altar that's inside that was only for incense. Bottom right hand corner, you've got the laver, it's called, which is set like a basin where the Kohanim would wash their hands. And then to the left of that, you have a table with some shelves on top of it. This is where the showbread was in the Beit HaMikdash.
Temple Institute has built one of these. It's amazing.
The Temple Institute, sure, you can see this live. Next Thursday, we're going to. All right, if we turn the page, another page or two, we see a diagram of all the different chambers. Exactly, everything's measured out, exactly how the temple is supposed to look like. Turn the next page. Look at page 31 for a second. Look at page 31. Here they, again, schematically, where is it, number 20? You see the middle, there's 20 by 20. It's called the Kodesh HaKodashim. That's the Holy of Holies. That's where the Aron Kodesh was, where the tablets were, in the first temple anyways. And then the Heichal is the next section, the largest, the elongated rectangular. That's the Heichal. And then outside of that, that's where the altar, the big altar was that we looked at yesterday. If you turn one more page, you'll see that a little bit. It's a little very small, page 33. You can see that there's a building within a building within a building. Page 33. See that? So the outer courtyard is just for people to gather and, eat and picnic and maybe have shear. But then you went into from the bottom, that was called the Azara, Azrat Nashim. And then within that, it's hard to see in this picture, but there's the rest of it's called a chamber, Azara. And then within that, the chamber within the chamber, that's where the altar is. And you can see it's very tiny, right before the building, in between the wall and the building. There's a ramp. A ramp. That's where the ramp is we were looking at before, in the altar. So this is tiny, tiny. And then the big building with the larger front end and the smaller tail back end. That's the actual Beit HaMikdash itself, where we had all those vessels that we were looking at yesterday. Okay, let's turn a few more pages. You can see a nicer picture of it, a diagram on page 37. Page 37 is nice, because you can see what I was trying to show you, that the Ezrat Nashim is at the bottom of your page. You get a little closer, there's 15 levels of steps going up. That's where the Levites would play their musical instruments. Then there's a small, thin strip called Ezrat Yisrael, the chamber for the Israelites. And of course, men and women were in the women's section. Don't think that this is the women's section only. Women were allowed to be there as well as men. And Ezrat Yisrael, only Yisrael was allowed. And Ezrat Kohanim, only the Kohanim were allowed as you get closer to the altar and the ramp. That's the next section. And finally, you have the Ulam, the big entry. And behind it, you can see a little picture of a menorah, a little picture of the altar of incense, the golden altar, and finally in the middle, top, it says Kodesh HaKodashim, Holy of Holies. So it's nice to see some diagrams. Even better than that, I like pictures. I want you to turn to page 42. You can see a picture of Jerusalem today. As a matter of fact, our understanding is that at the bottom right hand of that map, where it says Ma'ayan HaGichon, and beneath it says Brechat HaShiluach all the way down, that's really where the city of David is. That's where David lived, and there was a wall all around this area. The Beit HaMikdash was at the top, the highest mountain over there, and that's where you see that rectangular sort of shaded area. It says Harabait, the Mount of Temple Mount, and then between it, in the middle, it says Hazara. That's the chamber that we were speaking about before. Okay, very nice pictures, but to tell you the truth, it's all kind of small and all kind of black and white. Check this out, boys and girls. Turn the page to page 700. I'm going to give you a tour of the Temple Mount right now. Check it out. Page 1205 gives you an aerial view of what it looks like today. Superimposed the 1205. Superimposed upon the golden dome, which is called the, what's it called, the golden dome? The Dome of the Rock, that's right. Is superimposed what the temple used to look like and how it was positioned. You can see that structure that we were looking at just before, and nowadays we're not allowed to go up to that area where the Beit HaMikdash used to stand. It's too holy. And so most people don't go up at all to the entire Temple Mount. You can see that the structure of the frame is much larger than it used to be, because at the end of the Second Temple time, King Herod, he expanded the Temple Mount. He was a great builder. And so now you can see there's trees. At the far left-hand side of your picture, it's hard to tell, but that's the gray silver dome. That's actually a mosque that the Arabs pray in. They don't pray in the Golden Dome. It's not a mosque. It's just a monument. But the one on the left, the silver, it's hard to see it here, that's actually a mosque that they use. But anyways, we continue further. Oh, you can see inside what it looks like. Ooh, I don't know who went in there. Maybe a drone went in to take a picture, because we're not allowed to enter there. We're not tahor, we're not pure enough. That's the way the rock looks now. On page 1206. Yeah. The rock. This is the rock inside the rock, the golden dome. The dome of the rock. Because this rock is known as Even Hashtiyah, the foundation stone. Right, our tradition tells us God started creating the world from this rock. Had to be one point of matter. The first point of matter ever was here. And that's where tradition tells us Avraham brought Yitzchak to the Akedah, and later on Yaakov did a sacrifice there, and later on David and Shlomo built the Beit HaMikdash on top of this rock. If you turn one more page to 1210, now you get to see some actual photographs in color. And on the top right-hand corner, you can see the direction, the vantage point. We're looking from left to right. That's west to east, right? You see in page 1210 and 1211. If you were standing right in front of the temple, the Dome of the Rock, this is what you would see. It's a blue building with all sorts of Arabic writing on top. I don't know what it means, but you can see all these pictures, by the way, in this website, harhakodesh.co.il, and you can do a virtual tour. We're going to do that right here in this book. You ready? Page 1212. Yisrael, you don't have to take pictures because there's a website. It says here the website, harhakodesh.co.il. You see it on page 1210? 1210, over here it has the name of the website. You see the website? There you go. So you can take the pictures from there if you want. Next page, 1212. This is where a vantage point a little bit further out. We just zoomed back west to the west. Can you tell me where, look on page 1212. Do you see the western wall anywhere? On 1212. On page 1212, they gave us a little bit of a hint for the diagram just to orient ourselves. No. Bottom left.
Yeah.
Where there's a grid.
Yeah.
The grid, it's where the Kotel Plaza is. When we pray, we don't go pray on top of the Temple Mount, we pray at the Kotel, which is beneath the Temple Mount, and it's, as you can see, it's a little bit south from the being parallel to where the actual temple stood. And I thought we had enough copies. I can't believe it. Someone must have stolen one. No, borrowed. Okay, so this is where we're standing. Turn to the next page. You can see a view from the north. View from the north. You can see that there's trees. There are walkways, which they built. Of course, all this is problematic, because you got to be careful not to get too close to where the temple used to stand. You're not allowed to go there unless you're pure. This is a view from the southern side on page 1216. You can see there's this big plaza, and then the Dome of the Rock. I'm going to keep going. They're just showing you from all the different angles. All the different angles. Most people would enter the temple from the east. If you look at page 1220, you see a view from the east, and you actually see these Corinthian-looking pillars. That's where the gates used to be. The gates that all the people coming on into the temple would go by. They'd go up the stairs here, and they would enter the gates into this temple, Azara, the chamber that I was showing you earlier. You turn one more page, you have a view outwards towards. You can see the 15 stairs. Hey, didn't I tell you about the 15 stairs where the Levites would stand? On page 1222, you can actually today go and stand on the 15 steps. You don't want to get too close because you'd be in where the temple used to stand. We're not allowed to do that. All right, so this is a cool little tour of Har HaBayit. So when you after the class, Rav Lissman asks you how was class, say, cool, we did a tour of Har HaBayit. We went to the entire Temple Mount. But I want to show you a little more than that. First of all, page 1228, that's the diagram in the Rambam's own handwriting that I was talking to you about before. So that's why I think the Rambam was not the artist. He was giving you a schematic. It's pretty clear. To my mind, the way my mind works is that it doesn't necessarily have to be straight lines. He was drawing it that way as a schematic. But anyways, the Lubavitcher Rabbi understood that it should be straight branches, not curved branches. But this is the Rambam's original handwriting. Very cool. He was, when did the Rambam live? Excellent. Rishonim, 1200. That's right. After the period of the sages was the period of the Geonim. And after that, period of the Rishonim. It's 500 years, from 1000 to 1500. We're trying to get our history straight here.
What is it the canal is going here?
Oh, you don't want me to skip that. Okay. This is some pictures of cinnamon on page 1226. This is the best we can gather the different incense, the spices that were in the special spices made for the incense of the temple. One of the mitzvot in the Torah is to every day take drugs. What? Not allowed to take drugs. Every day before mincha, you can hear Rav Dani saying, "Kach lecha samim." In modern Hebrew, samim means drugs. Take drugs. Oh, that's a bad idea. You can get addicted. Samim in the biblical Hebrew meant spices. And spices for the incense. So the Torah describes exactly which spices we have to make a special sort of recipe, and then put that on the altar every day. Sweet smell, and these are the various ingredients. The Hebrew words kind of old, so they did some research. Doctors of ancient plants.
In the corner, whatever.
The top one is called karkom.
So some of the animal, I think it makes sense to more.
Oh, it's also the musk is the name of a deer. You get this spice, musk, from a gland inside the body of this musk deer.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what the moor is. That's why they have a picture of the animal. Anyways, the top left-hand corner is called karkom. Karkom is what we call today Zafran, which is Zafran is sometimes Saffron. So it comes from this flower, and then when you dry it out, it looks like it does on the left.
You have been drinking tea of saffron.
Have I ever had saffron tea?
I think you.
You've been giving it to me?
Wow.
Amazing. Thank you. I could smell something from the Beit HaMikdash. I didn't know what it was. Very cool. Anyways, we're going to skip ahead because there's more pictures. This is already artist's rendition of what it used to look like. Look at page 1234. It says in the Nevi'im and the prophets about the first temple that King Solomon, when he built the temple, he made the grandest building ever, and he made the laver where the Kohanim would wash their hands and feet, held up by 12 figurines of cows. You can see it on page 1224 on the right-hand side. That's full of water. That's the basin. Just very, I don't know where the taps were. Maybe it came out of the mouth of the cows. I don't know. Cow was a symbol of prosperity. It's the John Deere of the day, the tractors. Anyways, it was a very sign of richness. You see some additional, looks like they're on wheels, additional basins, because there was lots of Kohanim. You can see on page 1234, you can see the altar with the fire on top of the altar. You see that? That's what we were describing earlier, where there's two levels. There's a lower level you can go up to on a ramp, and the higher the ramp shakes you to the top level. And there's little figurines. That's the size of the Kohen compared to the size of the Beit HaMikdash. It must have been 4 floors high, 5. Looks pretty high to me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 floor. Pretty tall building. Of course, we only went into the ground floor, and you can see the entrance there of the Beit HaMikdash. This is a picture. At the bottom of 1234, you can see the city of David I was trying to describe to you earlier. At the bottom, we're looking at it from the east here. And at the top, on the right-hand side of it, you can see the Beit HaMikdash on the far right-hand of the picture within the gate. The gate included the city of David and the Beit HaMikdash at the top. Look on page 1235. Photo 35, you'll have an aerial view. Again, this is an artist's rendition of what it looked like. What we saw before in schematic, you can see the altar and the fire going up from the altar. There's a tradition that it went straight up to the heavens. This was like a miracle. They had a special type of spice, perhaps. You'd imagine that the winds would blow that cloud right, left. But there's a tradition that they had a special technique and maybe special divine assistance that it went straight up to the heavens, showing you that there's a link between. Now you see there's an arrow there on page 1235? In the middle, there's a few arrows. See 3 arrows? There's 3 chambers. These 3 chambers were actually courts of law. The Beit Din. There were 3 levels of Beit Din. The higher court, the higher court, and then the Supreme Court. Supreme Court had how many judges? 70. 71. Make sure that there's not half-half. Had to have an uneven number. 71, the high court. Then there was a lower court of 23 judges, and the lower court could be 3. In any case, we see here that the Torah, the law, the justice, is connected to the worship, to fear of God. And they're actually physically present. They had buildings for the court system on the Temple Mount. You can see, you can actually go to the bottom of the page, there's a diagram, not a diagram, it's a model. It's a model right next to, it's part of the Israel Museum. If you go on the right day, you can have free entry. If not, you pay a few shekels. Go to Israel Museum, it's an amazing museum. They have so much to see. Even before you enter the main building of the Israel Museum, you turn right, and you can spend your whole day on 2 amazing sites. One is, it's called the Shrine of the Book. That's where the Dead Sea Scrolls, and also the Keter, the crown from Haled, Surya, Keter Aram Tova. It's the most precise manuscript of the Tanakh that we have. They're both there in a special building that looks like a teardrop, called Shrine of the Book. And right after that, this model. And you walk all the way around this model, and you can see it's a model of Jerusalem in the Second Temple time, what Jerusalem used to look like. And of course, we're looking at it from the east. And you could primary in your pictures is the Beit HaMikdash, but also you can see the rest of the city, the different sections of the city all around the Temple Mount. It's a very cool model to go check it out. It's known as the Holy Land model. You know why? Any guesses? Why it's called the Holy Land? Oh, because of Holy Jerusalem. Wrong.
Does it in Israel?
Wrong.
What do we do with that?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Mayor of Jerusalem?
Yes. What about the Aerodome with the Mayor of Jerusalem? What about him? What is he known for?
Being a crook.
Good. What else? What?
Instigated a civil war.
Okay. Why was he known as a crook?
It was a building project.
Which building project?
Called Holy Land.
See, in the south of Jerusalem, nearby Tvegan, there's a project of buildings, of tall skyscrapers, condominiums, for people to live, and that project is called the Holy Land condominiums. And apparently he gave his friends, or was bought off, to allow them to build these very, very tall buildings out of character for the rest of Jerusalem. And he was put in jail for corruption for that one. Anyways, for many, many years, the Holy Land Hotel, there's a hotel there right next to this complex of condominiums. The hotel came first, and then the condominiums came afterwards. The Holy Land Hotel hosted this model of the Second Temple period. So it became known as the Holy Land model because it was next to the Holy Land Hotel. Now, there's a lot of associations with this Holy Land. But anyways, it was moved at some point from the hotel to the Israel Museum, where it's much better access to it, and they preserve it, and it's an amazing feat. Anyways, you can see what Jerusalem used to look like in the Second Temple period, some 2,000 years ago, before the Romans destroyed the Second Temple. Of course, I was describing you the picture on the top right-hand corner of 1234. That's King Solomon's temple, with the cows, the bulls probably, the bulls. So that's the first temple. That's a picture of what the first temple used to look like. At the bottom left, you have a picture of what the second temple used to look like. It was much more grand. As I said, King Herod was a master builder, and he, renovated the temple to a large extent. Now you turn the page, 1236, and you can see an aerial photograph of what it looks like today. We still have that structure that King Herod built up, that large temple mount, the mount with the temple on it. This is a view from the south, and you can see the silver dome, or the gray at the bottom, which is actually the mosque, and then the golden dome of the rock in the center, and you could get your bearings. If you look at the bottom, an artist's rendition of what the third temple would look like on a modern day Jerusalem. Wow, that's I think their vision is that the golden dome will be gone. I don't see any more golden dome and the silver dome, right? I don't see any of that. Who knows what the future is going to bring? It could be. I imagine that when Mashiach comes, we're going to have to redo the whole thing. I mean, all the old city, the new city. We're going to need millions and millions of people to have access to this temple. So, but it's something to imagine, to think about. On the left-hand side, you see some of the Kohanim going about their duties with the offerings, and a miniature model someone made of a Mizbeach with the different bonfires on top of the Mizbeach on page 1237. Let's move on. And you can see on page 1238 a few more graphic representations by artists about what it was like inside the temple. On the right-hand side, you have people. What are they doing on 1238? What are they doing on 1238? No, I don't think it's bread. I don't think so. What are they doing towards the ground there? Mikveh, yeah, it looks like mikveh to me.
What, maybe hot stones?
Or maybe vessels that they're purifying. Yeah.
I thought they're preserving foods.
No, I don't think so. Well, it says here they had a special underground chamber, which, it held all the wine and the oils. So this was a storage room for the wine and the oils that they were storing away. Okay, very cool. Next, turn the page. This is the rendition of the Machon Meir. You can see the real one in the old city, in the Jewish quarter, page 1240. That's the one they made, and all the other vessels out of gold and brass. The brass laver on page 1243. One modern day rendition of that. The Aron Kodesh, page 1244, with the Kruvim. A lot of people don't know. It says in the in the sources that there was actually, in addition to the Kruvim on top of the Aron Kodesh, 1244 I'm looking at now. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'akol niyeh b'dvoro. There was additional Kruvim, these kind of figurines with wings, in the Holy of Holies. This is a picture of the Holy of Holies, the way it looked according to the artist's rendition in the First Temple era. Next page, okay, additional places where the Kohanim were getting their wardrobe. They had a special uniform. Obviously, they had the places where to get changed. Here on page 1246, they were going to the mikvah. 1246, they're going to the mikvah. Lots of jugs of wine and oil which were used. Lots of wood, page 1247. There was a chamber where they kept the wood so they could burn on the altar. And then ultimately it's the additional korbanot, the places where the Kohanim would sleep. They would sleep there for the week. They had a little dormitory, page 1248. There was at the bottom, page 1248, where people would come and buy their libations, the oil they needed, the wine they needed for their korbanot. There was a little store with a whole system of tokens. And of course they had to check that all the goats were unblemished. And the Kohanim are eating on page 1250. 1250, they're chowing down, they have a meal. You see lots of bread, maybe meat. And this is where they ate. These priests were eating there.
Like Machon Meir.
It's exactly like Machon Meir, that's right. We have a freshly baked bread.
So you get barbecue every day.
Mm-hmm.
Beds as well.
Here on 1251, that's the funniest picture in the book, I think. 1251 at the top. What's happening there? Anybody here been to the army? Hardest thing in the army is you got to do lots of guard duty. What happens when you're on guard duty? Nothing. Nothing. So what happens? You fall asleep. Fall asleep. Whoop! This guy waking him up. So when you falling asleep on the job, the Levites had to guard, and this guy fell asleep. So they woke him up. Looks like he's pretty angry, pretty stern. It's a funny picture. On the bottom, you see this very special robes. The special clothes of the Kohanim were made with a combination of various colored wool. Wool colored purple, wool dyed blue, and all different colors. And they had a very special way of spinning that into one thread, all these various smaller threads. In the temple, turn one more page, 1252, actually see people prostrating themselves. We said that until today, there are some Yemenites who, when they do tachanun, they prostrate themselves on the ground every day after the Amidah. We don't do that anymore. We just put our head on our hands, or if you're Sephardi, you just sit down. You don't do any posture like that. It was a very in the temple, though, for sure. That's what that was the standard. It can be powerful. We do it once a year. What day do we do prostrating ourselves? Yom Kippur. Excellent.
You do it like this?
No, most people don't. Most people do it only on their knees, but some people do it fully prostrated. The standard is not to do it like that. You're right. You're right. But the Yemenites, I assume they do. They do. We have some reconstructions of instruments that were used, the trumpets and harps. And then we have some more diagrams of the big Gadim, the Kohen Gadol's clothes. This is a great volume, right? It's a great picture book. I love pictures. But and then we have the doves. We have pictures, the way that there were different uniforms for the Kohen Gadol. And on page 1256 at the bottom, it's a very interesting contraption they made. Apparently they had a contraption how to draw the water. The bottom, page 1256. How to bring the water there so that the Kohanim could wash their hands and feet. There was some kind of a pulley system.
This picture here, I have a lady.
There's someone you know who spins the wool like that?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Until today, people are doing it by hand. There are some hand stuff. Anyways, we're gonna take a break from this now. We won't get into all the korbanot. I just wanted to start. We can look at this more another time, all different pictures of kosher animals and impure animals and different types of fish, kosher fish, and different implements that were used in the temple times. A really, really wonderful volume. And that's really the reason I got these books, even though none of us know how to read Hebrew on the level to be able to read through this entire volume. How many pages is the volume? 1,300 and 400 pages, 1,400 pages. But we definitely can understand the pictures.
How long ago you bought it?
Last year, just a year ago, yeah. According to the Lubavitcher Rebbe's understanding of the Rambam, yes. All right, we're going to get started on chapter 8, the customs of the 3 weeks. One of the customs, of course, we already just did, and it is that we learn a little more about the Beit HaMikdash during this time period. Now we're using this book, though, now. This book. You have your own copy. There you go. Anyways, how did you enjoy that?
Nice tour.
Nice Torah, huh? Picture Torah. Do not be swayed after your eyes. We're a little bit reticent in the Jewish tradition when it comes to seeing things. What's the danger? When did God say to us, remember, you didn't see anything with your eyes. You only heard. Why? Why were they trying to, what was Hashem telling us?
Not to have
After the revelation at Sinai, when we heard the Ten Commandments, don't fall into the trap of making idols. And so the faculty of sight is a little more dangerous than the faculty of hearing. So we traditionally don't have too many pictures or photographs. But sometimes for us, we live in a digital age and the age of pictures, media bombarding us. We've learned how to make photographs and digitize, and nowadays we all have videos in our pockets. So the faculty of sight is very, very powerful. We have to harness it for good things. Chapter 8. The customs of the 3 weeks. Put it like this, it won't fall. Ready? Page 147. Okay, we're going to put away these books so that I know it's hard to... It's like reading the cartoons. I love Torah books that have cartoons in them. I taught all my kids lots and lots of Torah with these special books. I have one here. I brought it in for us to learn when we were learning the laws of Shabbat. Just this Shabbat, my son was showing my grandson the book that he learned from when he was learning how to keep Shabbat. Pictures of little boys and girls doing things wrong on Shabbat, cutting off branches, and there's lots of pictures. As a matter of fact, in this book about the 39 categories of work on Shabbat, it's another picture book. It starts off with a description of, I'll show you of course there's a depiction of the 7 days of creation, what was created on each day, which is a good thing to remember. Even more than that is a description of the Mishkan. Mishkan was the temporary, the portable Beit HaMikdash, which the Jewish people took with them through the desert, according to the verses in the book of Shemot. Right? So this picture is very telling. All of the elements that they had in the Beit HaMikdash we were seeing just before, they have it in small. This is the altar with the ramp, but of course it's much smaller. The one they held in the desert, you didn't walk on top of it. It was handheld. It had to be smaller, and the Kohen would go around from the outside and put on whatever he needed to put on the altar. And of course it was all made out of beams, which they carried with them on these wagons, and they had a structure of courtyard with textile. It wasn't built up with bricks and stones, like in the pictures we were saying about the actual temple. So this was a makeshift, a portable mishkan, the tabernacle. It's a word that you only learn when you study Hebrew. What's a tabernacle, right? Isn't that something that's on the bottom of ships? Barnacles? What's a tabernacle? I don't know. Anyways, this is a tabernacle, the Mishkan. Anyway, so lots of pictures here to help you understand the laws of Shabbat. And this is a great way to learn, especially if you don't know Hebrew. And all sorts of, when there's a red book, it means it's something that's forbidden, right? When there's a green book, it's something that's allowed. I don't see any green books on this one. Oh, there's a little green book. Oh, okay, so it's something that's allowed, green and red. So it's a cute method of teaching. So I like pictures. I brought this in for us here to use if anybody wants to study the laws of Shabbat in their spare time. Better than Netflix.
Yeah.
Right? Chapter 8, let's go. This one doesn't have pictures, but it does have a lot of good details for us to learn about customs of the 3 weeks. Avi, start us off, page 147. Please read for us.
For 3 weeks. 3 weeks which began on the night of Shabbat in Tammuz and continue through Tisha B'Av for a painful time. This period is often known as Pain Mitzari. Recalling the verse, all her pursuers overtook her in narrow places. Therefore, the sages recommended that we take extra precautions on these days, which are not prone to calamity.
Which are prone.
Prone to calamity. For example, even though one must always be careful and vigilant, those who go on a hike or swim in the sea must be even more careful during this period. In order to signify the nature of this period, the sages instituted the reading of the special Haftarah that deals with calamity on the 3 Shabbatot of the 3 weeks. On the 7th Shabbat following Tisha B'Av, we read 7 Haftarot of consolation.
So we're going through the motions, as it were. We've been doing this for almost 2,000 years. We have a period where we mourn, but we know that the consolation is promised afterwards. In our day and age, of course, we're living the consolation somewhat. So there's 3 special weeks where we know the Haftarah has to do with the destruction, and then there's 7 special weeks, which all of the Haftarot have to do with consolation. Beautiful, beautiful passages. Almost all of them are from Yeshayahu. Isaiah, he was a great prophet of consolation. All right, let's continue. Even though the sages did not make any special enactments to mark the suffering and mourning of the 3 weeks, the Jewish people adopted the custom. I'm on the top of page 148 now. So there's no real halakha that you must, but the Jewish people adopted the custom to refrain from music and dancing and to avoid reciting Shechianu during this period. There are other customs of mourning the various communities have adopted. Ashkenazim and some Sephardim, including Jews from Morocco and Jerba, refrain from cutting their hair during the 3 weeks. Other Sephardim are strict about this only during the week of Tisha B'Av. The Ashkenazim, Yemenites, and most Sephardim do not conduct weddings during the 3 weeks. Other Sephardim are more lenient, only avoid weddings from the beginning of the month of Av. See below, section 7. In the following sections, we will discuss at length the customs of the 3 weeks, the 9 days, the week of Tisha B'Av. I want to make a timeline for you on the board. Take out your pens and papers, please, and see if you can make your own version of this in your notebooks, just so that you keep this clear in your mind. We start off here with the 17th of Tammuz coming up this Thursday. That's day 1. Then we have another marker here, and that's going to be the 1st of Av. And then we're going to have the last marker, You're going to have another marker here. This is going to be the 9th of Av. I ask you the following question. This entire thing, of course, is 3 weeks. This, of course, is the 9 days. Number 1 of Av, yes. First of Av, Rosh Chodesh, Av. But there's another marker over here, which it's a little bit variable. Could be to the right, to the left a little bit. And this is going to give us an additional small little period called the week of the 9th of Av. The week of. Now the week of, meaning the week during which Tisha B'Av falls. And so when does this start? It's a little bit variable. Why? Because it depends what day of the week Tisha B'Av is. It starts on the Shabbat before that. So if Tisha B'Av is on a Monday, you only have 2 days of the week of. Right? And if it's on a Wednesday, then you got 4 days in the week of the 9th of Av. The week of the 9th of Av. That's what it's called. And if it's on a Thursday, this year, I believe that the 9th of Av is on a Thursday, so you've got a 5-day, the week of the 9th of Av. That's why I said it's a little bit variable, this marker. The 1st of Av, that's 9 days before. So what he just mentioned is that there are 3 different periods of mourning that we discuss in the halakha. Some communities, like the Ashkenazim, they were the most strict. And they said, we're going to apply lots of laws of mourning to the entire 3 weeks, between the 17th of Tammuz until the 9th of Av. Everybody see that? The 3 weeks? The Mishnah, the original custom, it already talks about there are some customs of mourning during the 9 days. From the Rosh Chodesh Av, is the beginning of the month, the Mishnah says, Mishenichnas Av, when Av enters, we limit our joy. We minimize our joy for the full 9 days, up until the 9th of Av. We fast on the 9th of Av, and then on the 10th, we go back to normal. We'll see some details about that, but pretty much that's period number 2. And if you are Ashkenazi, you've already been keeping some customs of mourning during the 3 weeks, but in the last 9 days, it's going to get more intense. There's even more customs of mourning in the 9 days. For example, we don't eat meat for the 9 days. We do for during the 3 weeks, but we don't when it gets closer and we get into the 9 days. And then there are some communities, I wish I was one of those. They're the most lenient. They say, we have some customs of mourning leading up to Tisha B'Av, but it's not all 9 days of Av. It's only during the week of the 9th of Av. And it's variable. It could be 4 days, 5 days, 2 days. This week it's 5 days. 5 out of the 9 days. That is the Sephardic custom. According to most Sephardim, we only have these strict customs of mourning during the few days, however many it is, during the week of Tisha B'Av, after Shabbat. So this is going to be Shabbat. Now this Shabbat gets a special name. The Shabbat gets a special name. What's the name of the Shabbat? Anybody? Really extra marks if anybody knows the name of this Shabbat. It's named after the special Haftarah. We said that there are 3 special Haftarot throughout the 3 weeks. The last one before Tisha B'Av is Shabbat Chazon. Chazon is the first word of the Haftarah. It's the first chapter of Isaiah. It's really sad Haftarah which talks about that Hashem tells the prophet Yeshayahu, I'm going to punish the Jewish people for their sins. Chazon is a vision. Chazon Yeshayahu ben Amos, the vision of Isaiah. That's how it starts. That's the Haftarah on the last Shabbat before Tisha B'Av. And from that Shabbat and on, everybody agrees, all communities have some customs of mourning, like not eating meat, for example. The truth is, the Yemenites, I think they're even more lenient. And they say you're only not allowed to have meat on the day before, Erev, on the 8th of Av, the day before Tisha B'Av. But the entire week is okay. But we'll see, that's a small group. And they're the most lenient when it comes to the leading up to Tisha B'Av, these period. All right, so we have 3 weeks, more intense during the 9 days, even more intense in the week of, and then even more intense on the day before. I'll put that over here as a special, the day before. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. All, of course, leading up to the 9th of Av itself, and that's the fast day. And all the laws of the fast day. But we have 4 stages leading up to the actual fast. Okay, is that chart clear? I think it's beautiful. Isn't that beautiful? Very clear. You understand? Now, you're going to find lots of different customs about what's prohibited. Some people will prohibit the same thing during the 3 weeks. Others say, no. It's allowed during the 3 weeks. Only during the 9 days should you refrain. And then other communities will say, no. That's 9 days is all right. Even though Rosh Chodesh Av happened, you up until Shabbat Chazon, you're still allowed to do that until the week of. And then even other communities will say, everybody agrees, on the day before Tisha B'Av, there's going to be some customs of mourning. And then, of course, on the day of the 9th of Av itself. I'll just add one more thing while we're at it, just to complete the picture. There is, after the 9th of Av, there's another day called the 10th of Av. 10th of Av, why did I draw it half the size? There are some customs of mourning which apply the day after until midday. Midday on the 10th, most communities allow you to do everything. For example, what still applies even though you fasted and you're eating, Tisha B'Av's over, they still apply in the 10th of Av, some customs of mourning. For example, doing laundry. We don't do laundry during the 9 days. Well, if you're Sephardi, during the week of. And we're, of course, not on Tisha B'Av. We're not going to do laundry on the fast day either. And that custom is that we don't do laundry until the next day at midday. We're going to see why the actual destruction of the temple took longer than 24 hours. It wasn't only on the 9th of Av. As a matter of fact, most of the temple still was burning on the 10th of Av. I don't know anybody like this, but I heard there are some people who fast 2 days. The 9th and the 10th. Because the temple was still burning on the 10th of Av. And so really, we should be fasting for 2 days, but of course we're only human. And the sages designed the law for humans. And so they decided to choose the 9th and not the 10th because of the historical reasons. We'll see it inside. But there are some customs of mourning which continue into period, of course the fast day is period 5, and actually period 6 is the 10th of Av. 6 different periods. The most intense, everybody agrees, is period 5. That's going to be the most intense mourning. And also a little bit the day before. But there are some customs of mourning, of course, in the 3 periods before that, and even the period after it. Yes, Yov, you wanted to ask a question. Yeah.
What do we do Shabbat?
Good question. We're going to learn about it. We're going to learn about Shabbat is a little bit of a break because we have to honor the Shabbat with clean clothes.
So
And
it gets to sing.
it gets what?
Singing and dancing.
Singing and dancing is the common custom is we do sing and dance on Shabbat. Of course, we don't use musical instruments, but yes, Shabbat we have to celebrate. It's a good question. That's an exception, but we'll see some of the details right now. This is the overall structure. Is that clear? Clear? Binyamin, clear? The different periods? All right. We're gonna go from the least intense to the most intense. Let's proceed. Page 148, section 2 in chapter 8. Eov, will you read for us, please? Dancing and music. Should I smile? I can, smile, take a picture. My artwork. There you go. Always look at me and smile. I'm sorry, am I blocking you? Also, okay, over here. That's it. Okay. Ready. Dancing and music. You ready? Page 148, section 2. Eov, take it away.
Is forbidden to hold dances from 17 Tammuz to 9th of August. This prohibition includes playing and listening to instrumental music. Thus, one may not hold attend dance classes, concerts, or sing-alongs during the 3 weeks. One may hold or attend an aerobic class whose main purpose is exercise until the beginning of the hour, but one should lower the music so that it is clear that the purpose of exercise is not celebration.
Yeah, have you ever been to a gym where they play music? It helps you go. It helps you get going, right? So there's a lot of women have dance classes, that aerobics, you put on music. You're doing it for the sake of the exercise. So you could be lenient up until the first of Av. The 9 days were even more strict. But during the 3 weeks, even though you're really not supposed to have dancing, if it's for the purpose of exercise, it's allowed. Oh, only at the beginning of the 3 weeks, up until the first of Av. Then we get more serious. We say during 9 days, no dance classes, no aerobics classes with music. Okay? We get more serious about this. What about if you're a musician? What? Now, the truth is most people are not having weddings. But if you're a musician outside the land of Israel, or maybe in Israel, they could be non-Jews are having weddings. So you're going to go and you're going to play music because it's your business. I'm not dancing because I'm happy. I'm not playing music because it's a fun concert. So a professional, go ahead, a professional.
A professional Jewish musician may play at non-Jewish events until they have Tammuz. Even though he plays joyous music there, it does not make him so happy because he is preoccupied with his work. From the beginning of hour, however, he should not play music at all. Since the reason music is prohibited is that it brings people joy. Music teachers may continue giving lessons until the week of the Shabbat, because neither the teacher nor the student experience joy.
Has anybody here had music lessons as a kid? Do the scales. Review. No, correct that. That's not much fun, right? It can be fun. It can be, but if the teacher's good, he or she knows how to do it well. But if the point is learning, you're allowed to continue learning during the 3 weeks. Go ahead. In addition,
canceling the lessons will cause the teacher financial loss, and the students will have to spend extra effort afterward to return to their normal learning fields, possibly even requiring extra classes. It's best to learn sad melodies during the 3 weeks. The teacher and the student usually take a break from their lessons at some point. Even preferable, if possible, to schedule the break for the 3 weeks.
Okay, so as long as you're not just singing and dancing for fun, if there's a reason for it, because that's your job, or you need to study, then it's allowed. We're lenient up until the first of Av during the 3 weeks. Now comes the question that you have asked, what about Shabbat during the 3 weeks? Well, that's easy because there's no musical instruments on Shabbat anyways. But what about, you have another event, a Brit Milah. Baby's born. Not going to stop having babies. My nephew just had a baby. The Brit was yesterday. I didn't go because I am teaching Torah. I made it a policy. Try not to cancel class for any reason. My wife went. My son went. But I didn't go. Hope they're not offended. But Torah is important. You have to recognize what we're doing here is the most important thing in the world. So I try not to go and cancel class. But there's a second chance because it's a firstborn son. What happens with the firstborn? There's going to be a Pidyon Ben on day 30. That's going to be on a Tuesday. No, maybe they'll do it in the afternoon. Maybe I'll be able to go. I don't teach in the afternoon. But in the morning, if they do it during the class hours, I'm going to say, sorry, can't come. Send my wife. Okay, so this is what happens if it's you want to have music. You're celebrating a mitzvah. Can you or not? Let's see what Rabbi Lamed tells us on page 149, section 3. Go ahead, Eov, you're doing such a beautiful job. Keep reading.
Playing music and singing at the Siddur means only sing happy songs at the Siddur means for the community and Milah. You don't have them.
What does Seudah mean?
Feast.
Meal, right, meal, feast. That's right. Seudat mitzvah, a meal at a mitzvah. A meal which is done to celebrate a mitzvah. It's actually a law that you're supposed to not just cut off the foreskin, have a meal. You're not supposed to just get married, have a meal. You're not supposed to just redeem the firstborn, have a meal. Okay? At every mitzvah, we celebrate it with a meal. So why are you having the meal? Because you want to celebrate? Wait, you shouldn't be celebrating during the 3 weeks. But I'm celebrating a mitzvah. So I'm not going to get married if I'm Ashkenazi. But other events, I don't have a choice when to do a Brit Milah, when to do a Pidyon Ben. The time came. So I'm going to have a meal. I'm going to celebrate. Can I play music? That's the question. Go ahead.
One may also celebrate a bar mitzvah or a bat mitzvah during the spirit work, only on the actual day that the child comes of age. Most can disagree about the Menachem, where people always have musicians say what mitzvah. May one have them during the 3 weeks as well? Some say that one may do so, since the music is for the sake of mitzvah, others are for the reason. One who wants to be lenient has an opinion to rely on as long as this is the general practice throughout the year.
I think in my circles, in my community, most people don't have music at a Brit Milah. Or it's not a big event. You don't necessarily hire musicians. That you have at weddings, yes. At weddings, absolutely. But at a Brit or a Pidyon, sometimes people will put on some music in the background. They'll have a speaker or something. Someone really wants to invest, they can have a musician lead some singing and dancing. I wouldn't say it's standard. And therefore, if it happens to be a Brit Milah during the 3 weeks, I would say, according to what Reb Melamed writes, it's inappropriate to have music, even though it's for the sake of a mitzvah. If it's not the standard practice, if it was the standard practice, then it would be allowed. But since it's not universal, then we're machmir. We're machmir. What does that mean, machmir?
Stringent.
We're stringent. Very good. Go ahead.
Therefore, in a Calvary, people always have musicians for performance or celebrations, one may do so during the 3 weeks. However, if some people hire two musicians, the others hire three, it is proper to hire only two during the 3 weeks. The same is true for all mitzvah celebrations. We follow the general practice of the rest of the year. Once the month of Av arrives, one should not have musicians for any celebration. Similarly, one should not play recordings of happy songs, and one may only sing along with the song that relates to the next celebration. One may even dance a little in a circle, as many people custom to do with the Different celebration. Members of the communities whose custom is to have holding weddings at the end of Tammuz may hire a regular band for their weddings, because there is no celebration without bride and groom without music. Even those whose custom is to refrain from getting married during these days may attend and dance at these weddings, as the joy they experience stems from it.
Okay, so you have a Sephardi friend, you're Ashkenazi, and you have a Sephardi friend. And the Kala is also Sephardi, from a Sephardi family. So they go to the rabbi, the rabbinate, and they register for marriage, and they say, we want to get married on the 25th of Tammuz. He said, it's during the 3 weeks. He said, okay, but I'm Sephardi, my Kala is Sephardiya. The rabbi say, okay, fine. Every community keeps its customs. So they get a wedding hall and they hire musicians. Because you can't have a wedding without music, without musicians. They make a regular wedding, they send out the invitations. Now, lo and behold, some of the friends and rabbis and family, some of their best friends are Ashkenazi. Believe it or not. Uh-oh. I've got a question. I'm Ashkenazi. I don't make weddings during the 3 weeks. Am I allowed to go and attend the wedding of my cousin or my friend who invites me to his wedding during the 3 weeks? What's the answer? Yes, absolutely. He's not doing anything wrong. And you're not doing anything wrong. I wouldn't have made the wedding if it was my wedding. But it's not my wedding, it's his wedding. So you're allowed to join that wedding. Sing and dance till your heart's delight. What you're doing is celebrating the mitzvah. You're not violating in any way the mourning for the Beit HaMikdash. We live in a mixed community, Baruch Hashem. We have ingathering of the exiles. So every community keeps its standard. And if someone invites you to their wedding, even though it's not your custom, you're allowed to attend and to join him in his celebration. Now, what's more common nowadays is the following two passages. Rav Melamed is a little lenient here, and I think what he says makes a lot of sense, but I want to tell you, I want to warn you, he's being a little more lenient than many rabbis. What he's lenient about is not musicians being hired to play the violin and the drums and the piano and the guitars and the electric guitars and the trumpets and the saxophone. Earphones. Most of the music we listen to nowadays is not live. It's music that we listen to while we're on the bus, while we're washing the dishes, while we're doing exercise, we mentioned before. And it's not a live musician, it's a recording. It's almost, you can't walk into the mall nowadays without hearing music. The truth is, I can't answer my telephone because the ring is music. It's not just bring, bring, bring. It's some kind of a song. Music is so much part of our lives, much more than it ever used to be, because we have these electronic devices. How does the halacha relate to that? So I'm not supposed to have weddings with live bands and dances where you have live musicians. But what about listening on my earphones to some tunes? Sorry? Oh, so you're saying, Rav, that's Rav Melamed's main point. He says, it really depends on the content. If you listen to hip-hop, dancing music, it's inappropriate during the 3 weeks, even to yourself. But if you're listening to sad song, you're listening to the blues, getting into the mood of the 3 weeks. That's a unique approach. Rav Melamed says, it really depends on what type of music it is. And why you're listening to the music. If it's to make you dance and be happy, it's inappropriate. If you're listening to music to help you concentrate, like when I drive, I put on some tunes, because otherwise I'll fall asleep. You don't want to fall asleep when you're driving. So he makes a big deal of the purpose and the context. Many poskim say, across the board, 3 weeks, no music of any kind, even on the radio. Don't listen to any instruments, even if it's not live. But Rabbi Melamed, his approach is a little more lenient. Let's take a look and see it inside. Okay, Zachariah, read for us, number 4, page 150.
Listening to music on personal electronic devices. Some authorities maintain that just as one may not listen to live music during the 3 weeks, so too one may not listen to recorded music played on home electronic devices during this period. One may listen only to songs without instrumental accompaniment during the home era period and the 3 weeks. This is how some of the greatest poskim rule. Some poskim even forbid listening to non-instrumental acapella music during these periods.
Stop there for a second. The most common psak in most of the Haredi world is like what he mentioned here, is that no instruments, but you can listen to vocal recordings. There are religious radio stations. Have you ever heard them? Do you know them? Religious radio stations. For 3 weeks, what do? Many of them, they play only a cappella music. They don't have instrumental music for those 3 full weeks. Because they follow those poskim who say, I don't care if it's live or it's digital. You don't listen to musical instruments during the 3 weeks. And it actually spawned an entire industry of some of the best singers, the most popular singers. They put out 2 versions of their songs. They put out a version with music, with instruments, and an a cappella version. They have a choir, maybe, of people singing behind them, making all sorts of sounds, beatbox. It sounds like it's a drum, but really it's just somebody, right? It's not a drum, it's just my mouth. So some people really put out an entire album of without instruments. It sounds like instruments, but it's not. Why? For the 3 weeks. So that you can listen to it, and people will buy their music, and the radio stations will play that music during the 3 weeks. This is a very common custom. However, go ahead.
Some permit listening to music on electronic devices, reasoning that the Aharonim only prohibited listening to live musical performances, which entails some degree of festivity. Listening to music through electronic devices, on the other hand, is not particularly festive. Granted, when phonographs, radios, and tape recorders were first introduced, people truly experienced joy when using them to listen to music. Today, however, when everyone listens to music on electronic devices all the time, people do not experience so much joy in doing so. Thus, it is not prohibited to listen to them during the 3 weeks. Furthermore, a distinction can be made between happy songs and regular songs. It is only fitting to prohibit happy songs during 3 weeks, whereas regular tunes, and certainly sad ones, should not be prohibited. Similarly, the Gemara, Shabbat, teaches that the custom was to play flutes at a funeral in order to arouse people to cry out in anger for the deceased. And this was part of the mitzvah of accompanying the deceased to his final resting place, the Vayatame. This shows that there is no sweeping prohibition against hearing instruments music. Rather, one may not listen to happy tunes during times of mourning. I heard from my father and my teacher that not only may one play sad instrumental songs related to the destruction of the temple on the radio during the 9 days, but it's actually good to do so, because it inspires people to mourn the destruction even more.
So his father is Rabbi Melamed, I think it's Rabbi Baruch Melamed, and he and his wife started a radio station, a religious radio station, Arutz Sheva. Nowadays it's no longer a radio station, now it's an internet site and a newspaper, and they have all sorts of other media, but not radio. But in the day he started the radio, and he, on his radio station, he followed what he felt was the right halacha. And therefore, during the 3 weeks, they played music with instruments, just not happy dancing songs, but neutral or sad songs. And he felt this is the right halacha. We see there's a difference of opinion. Yeah, go ahead.
Can we listen to a woman singing?
Oh, good question. Let's get back to it in a minute. I'll come back to it in a minute. It's a good question. Let's see the halacha and practice, and then I'll relate to your question. Page 152. What's the practice? Zachariah, you're doing so well.
Halacha in practice. It seems that in practice, according to the lenient view, we should divide all songs into three categories. Joyous songs that goes way at weddings, songs that are neither especially joyous nor especially sad, which includes most contemporary music and most classical compositions. Sad songs like those played or sung when mourning and death for the destruction of the temple. From the beginning of the 3 weeks, one should refrain from listening to the first category of music, joyous songs. Starting from the first of Av, one should refrain from listening to the middle category as well, and only listen to sad songs. The third category, it also seems to me that when one listens to loud music, even if it is a neutral song, the force of the sound makes it more festive and practically transforms it into a joyous song. Thus, one may not listen to loud music, even if it is the type of music that's permitted during the 3 weeks. Furthermore, it seems that one may not attend a concert featuring sad music during the 3 weeks, even though the music is mournful. Concerts are festive and joyous events, as evidenced by the fact that people usually dress up for them. However, it would seem that one may play a sad tune in commemoration of Jerusalem, a cultural event, even during the night.
Okay, if it's to remember Jerusalem, that's something else. But most events, I remember, he doesn't talk about it here. When I was growing up, we went to movies. And the law was, we don't go to movies during the 3 weeks. Because going to a movie is an event. It's a joyous event. So we avoid any of these public events, like he's saying, any music. If you put it on loud enough, you have a dance party, clearly it doesn't matter that it's not necessarily dance music. It makes it more festive. I have a friend who followed the rabbi who said the following: if you're listening to music in the car, no problem, because you're by yourself, you're driving, it's accompanying you. Wait, you stop and you pick up a friend, no problem, it's just two of you. But wait, if you stop again and pick up a third person, if you have 3 people, that's already a party. You have to turn off the music. Very interesting definitions. Everybody's sort of grappling to try to figure out how to apply this idea to our modern lives. They're a little bit different because music is everywhere, as I said. We always listen to music. It's not particularly festive. But if you gather as a group, it can become festive, and type of music makes a difference. Anyways, I like Rav Melamed's approach. It's as long as you're not singing and dancing and having a party, if you're listening to music to calm down. I listen to music in the background a lot when I'm studying, when I'm in the house, and as long as it's not loud dance music, I think it's allowed during the 3 weeks. Maybe it should be more machmir as you get closer to the 9 days. Right? I showed you on the chart how gets more and more intense. I want to take a break and answer Binyamin's question. Binyamin asked, are we as men allowed to listen to women singing? Why not? The Talmud says that a woman's voice is considered to be immodest for men. It's sexually arousing. It's considered to be like, private parts, that we're not supposed to look at women's private parts. It's immodest. So can a man listen to a woman sing? According to the Talmud, it would seem like no. And pretty much most rabbis forbid it. They say that we all can understand that a woman's voice can be sensual and can be arousing, although we also just know that it's not obvious. Sometimes a woman's voice is just pretty and nothing sexual about it. So could be the times have changed and that maybe there's a reason to permit it. Most poskim make the following distinction. I don't know if most, but a lot of poskim they make the distinction. They say, if she is live in front of you singing, it's inappropriate to listen to live. So I don't go to the opera for that reason, because that would be listening to women singing live. And I don't go to concerts where women are the singers. Limits me a little bit, but I think it makes a lot of sense, especially nowadays with women performing in front of men. Most of them don't wear much clothes. Also, so you got a double trouble, right? It's not only their voice which is giving you, inappropriate, immodest activity, but it's the way they dress. Where you're staring at this woman singing, and she's trying to entice you. She's trying to be sexually attractive, in most cases. In most cases, right? So that's in distinction from listening to a recording. Listening to a woman who's not live, it's just recorded. In most cases, people are not really sexually aroused by listening to a woman singing nowadays. And so I'm lenient about it. Sometimes, when it's a very sexual song, I'll turn it off. So that's inappropriate. It really depends on the context. But, like listening to some old Ella Fitzgerald or something, or in Israeli music, you listen to Naomi Shemer singing a song. There's nothing sexual about that. It's just beautiful voice and singing the songs about Jerusalem or about life in general. I am lenient personally, but other rabbis are more strict, and they say you should never listen to a woman's voice, even recorded, even if it's not live. If it's a recording, men should not listen to women singing, because it says in the Talmud a woman's voice is considered to be sexually immodest. Of course, women, now there's an entire genre of women singers. They have beautiful voices. This was their talent, God-given talent. Why shouldn't they be able to express it? So they do, but they say, I only am going to play concerts for women. And we're going to sing in front of women. There's some artists, some musicians, singers, who feel very stifled by that, because you're limiting half of their audience, and so they're looking for rabbis that allow it, and some rabbis allow it. They say, as long as you're not sexual, it depends on the context. I have a couple who I taught before their wedding, and this is their thing. They sing together. They're a couple that sing together. Nothing sexual, but they sing beautiful songs. Some of them very inspiring about life, about Judaism, and they're religious. They're religious, and they decided to follow their rabbi. I don't know who it is, but their rabbi said to them the type of songs that they sing, as they sing together as a couple, there's nothing wrong with that, and they're allowed to sing even in front of, the woman is allowed to sing even in front of men with her husband, and there are some people that are lenient about it. Personally, they didn't ask me. I don't think I would give them such a heter. What's a heter? An allowance, a permissibility. I don't think I would allow that. I think that the Talmud is very clear that you shouldn't listen to women singing, if it's live, for sure. And I'm lenient sometimes when for example, you're not in charge. I'll go sometimes to a ceremony to commemorate the soldiers that died. And sometimes they have a musical interlude. And they have a singer singing a sad song about the soldiers that died. And without knowing, I didn't realize that they're going to have a woman singing. So am I going to get up and leave in the middle? It can be disrespectful. So if possible, I try to check ahead of time, but because ideally I don't listen to women singing. But if I'm in such a situation, I put my eyes down. And there's even chief rabbis who many times find themselves at these official ceremonies, and they didn't ask them, and they're not being sensitive to them, and they have, instead of men singing, they have women singing. And some of the chief rabbis, I think all the chief rabbis that I've seen, they just put their eyes down and they try not to listen and not to look at her, at least while she's singing, and you do the best you can. But in the ideal world, we shouldn't have women singing live in front of men, based on the Talmud. Is that a good answer?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes, Israel.
If some music concert, and men and women just play the music in church.
Yeah, there's no problem listening to a woman who plays instruments. If she's not singing, there's no problem. She can play an instrument. Usually, it's a little funny, I don't know why, but women who are playing music, like classical music, a violinist, usually they wear a dress with almost nothing, no sleeves, and no, the standard fancy dress is very different than what the halacha says, standard of dress. But if you don't look at them, there's nothing wrong with listening to music played by. I've seen religious women who play in bands together with the men, and they're religious. They're fully dressed, and they're playing the piano, or they're playing the violin, or whatever it happens to be, their music, their instrument. And I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. Some women are uncomfortable being on a stage where everybody's looking at them, and I understand that. It makes sense. But if she's an artist and she's a musician and she finds no other outlet, as long as she's not singing, there's no prohibition of listening to music which was played by a woman. That's not considered prohibited. Okay, are there other questions? Yeah, nowadays I think people are a little bit closing their eyes to when women sing. I mean, the most famous women singers, they're sex symbols. Beyonce and even Taylor Swift is the most popular singer ever, I think, now, in terms of the number of songs downloaded or something like that. I just saw some statistic. And then I saw a clip of a concert of hers. Okay, there's 100,000 people. She comes out to sing her song. She has a great voice, and whatever, I don't know what the style of music, it doesn't matter. But she's wearing almost nothing. She's wearing a bathing suit. And why? Why does that have to be like that? It's just, in modern culture, Western culture, it goes together. The sexuality is part of what you're selling, and that's inappropriate. Wear that when you're going swimming. Wear that when you're in bed with your husband, but not when you're in front of 100,000 people. What does that have to do with singing a beautiful song? So I think it's nowadays, unfortunately, this idea of a woman's voice being a sexual matter, it's more present than ever in history. 100, even 50 years ago, it wasn't like that. Women would sing beautiful songs, and people would appreciate their voice, and there's nothing sexual about it. Nowadays, I don't think you can be a successful singer without showing your body. That's just part of the way the industry works, the music industry works. Okay, we'll do our best. B'ezrat Hashem. There is a phenomenon, it's an amazing phenomenon, of many, many Israeli singers who are secular their entire lives, and they get popular, and more, they're choser b'tshuva. They start to be observant, and as many of them stop playing music on Shabbat. Shabbat is the prime day in Israeli culture when people have events and concerts, and it's a very strong challenge for them to say, I'm going to give up on the thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of revenue which I could have made. I'm not going to perform on Shabbat. And if it's a woman singer who wants to be chozeret b'tshuva, well, she's going to dress more appropriately, more modest. For example, in the last few years, there's a very popular Israeli singer who was chosen to sing at the biggest event of the year, Independence Day. There's a big party to celebrate the day Independence Day, and they have a concert with many performers. And she was so popular that she was chosen to perform. So she got up there to sing, but she was wearing big head covering and a long dress, totally modest, covering all of her body, but she still sang in public in front of everybody. So I'm not judging her, but I'm just saying it's an fascinating phenomenon that many celebrities are trying to find their way when they become more observant. They realize that you can't violate the halakha. And then there are many women singers who only sing in front of women, which is the appropriate thing to do. Anyways, good question, Binyamin. Let's get back to the laws of the 3 weeks. And By the way, I will just point out before we move on, there's nothing wrong in halacha with singing on Shabbat, Shabbat songs. And in yeshiva, right, sometimes we dance on Shabbat. There's nothing wrong with dancing on Shabbat for the sake of Shabbat. It's not just singing and dancing for fun. It's part of our religious service, so we allow that singing and dancing. Okay.
This Kolisha applies to your wife too.
Say again.
Kolisha.
Kol isha, kol, the voice of a woman. No, your wife, you're allowed to listen to her sing. Yeah, there's a question whether if she's a nice voice. There's a question whether it's appropriate while you're praying. Because when you're praying, you're not allowed to pray in front of a woman who's disrobed or is not clothed. So that's questionable. What if you're in the middle of trying to pray and your wife is singing? It may be a problem. But other than that, if you're not praying or doing religious things, you're allowed to see your wife naked. So you're allowed to hear her voice. That's part of being married. But it's more complicated because what happens at the Shabbat table? So do you sing together or not? I'll just add that to the discussion of the previous discussion before we continue about the 3 weeks. There are some families where they tell the girls and the wives and the women, they're trained to not sing Zmirot Shabbat because it's mixed company. And even in the family. When the kids are small, under the age of 9, 12, that's fine. But once they become adults, you're in the family, just like you're not supposed to be... And it's not only family, sometimes it's guests. Guests come. And so, as a general principle, they say to the women, don't sing Zmirot out loud. Many of them want to sing, so they sing quietly to themselves. But there's some poskim who allow, like Rabbi Yosef was very lenient about this, said, when you're singing Zmirot Shabbat, it's clearly holy activity. There's nothing sexual about it. There's nothing inappropriate. If you're in a crowd, if there's more than one woman singing by herself, she's singing together with her brother or her father or the guest. As long as her voice is part of a group of voices, she's not singing solos, then it can be allowed when it comes to Zmirot Shabbat around the Shabbat table. That's what my wife practices. In many communities, the women do sing Zmirot Shabbat together with the men. She doesn't sing solos, but that there's room to be lenient for that because of the context and because of the not one woman singing by herself, but singing as a group. But some people are more machmir, some people are more lenient. But it's debated. It's debated until today. The standard is that the women don't sing in front of men. And for Zmirot, I think a lot of people are lenient. But you'll probably see many different customs when you go to different houses.
Yeah, they also say to Torah.
So speaking is different than singing. A woman's speaking voice, most 99% of poskim say it's allowed. You can have a conversation with a woman, and you can hear her give a speech, and you can listen to a lecture by a woman. But that's different from singing. Singing is different. So yeah. So why, if a woman can say Dvar Torah, why not? Yeah. Okay, page 153. We're going to go back to the laws of the 3 weeks. I see we're not going to finish today. I see that there's, how many more sections? Oh, quite a few. Oh my gosh, chapter 8 is all the way. There's so much more. Look at that. Oh my gosh. So, what day is today? It's only Monday. Oh, okay, so we're not going to even attempt to finish today. We have another 30 pages. Maybe by the end of the week we'll finish. You counted, you saw already. So we're not going to rush ahead and try to finish everything today. Let's do one more passage. Try to sneak it in so we get ahead for tomorrow. Hiking, swimming, and hotel vacations. It's very relevant because next week we're going, the Machon Meir English department are going on a tiyul, and it's sort of a vacation. And we're going to go swimming. I sure hope it's allowed. Let's take a look. Shmuel, will you read for us? Page 153.
Hiking, swimming, and hotel vacations. Some maintain that one must refrain from hiking and swimming, or bathing in the sea, or swimming in or a swimming pool during the 3 weeks, in order to limit our enjoyment during this multiple period. Furthermore, since these days are prone to calamity, one must avoid potentially dangerous activities. From a halakhic standpoint, however, these activities are not prohibited. After all, the sages only instructed us to curtail our joy on the first day of the Av. They did not prohibit engaging in pleasurable and enjoyable activities before then. The only thing one should avoid is special celebrations, parties, concerts, and dances. Therefore, one may go hiking and swimming, and one may vacation in a hotel until the end of Tammuz. In addition, the concept and concern about engaging in potentially dangerous activities is not so serious that one must be more cautious than one generally should be throughout the year. Thus, one may go hiking and engage in similar activities during 3 weeks, while taking particular care to follow the safety precautions that apply to such activities throughout the year.
Okay, so that's why next week we're going on a tiyul. We want to make sure that we get some learning through not only through our heads and our mouths and ears and our eyes, like the pictures we saw today, but also through our feet and legs. We're going to walk and enjoy the land of Israel and learn about the history in the Golan Heights next week. And even this Shabbat coming up as well in Tirat Carmel. But so we're going to swim, and we're following the poskim that say it's allowed as long as it's not the 9 days yet. The 9 days we wouldn't do such a tiyul. But in the 3 weeks we do. Well, the only thing prohibited is parties. We're not going to have a party, okay? We won't have music playing because it's the 3 weeks. But we're going to, maybe in your earphones you're allowed to hear it privately. As we discussed, there's different opinions. But we are going to go, when the 9th of Av comes, finish it off Shmuel, we curtail our joy. Therefore, last paragraph on 153.
When Av arrives, we curtail our joy, and 826b. Therefore, one must refrain from outings and recreational activities that are mainly designed to provide pleasure and joy. However, one may go on a trip or vacation that is designed primarily for educational or therapeutic purposes during the 9 days. The same goes for swimming, whether in the sea or in a pool. If the purpose is leisure, it is forbidden. However, if one's doctor instructs him to swim for health reasons, we do so even during the 9 days.
Well done. So, for many, I have done this in the past. Last year I didn't, but the previous year I did. I was going swimming pretty regularly. That was my exercise. So I went, even during the 9 days. But I was alone in the pool. Almost nobody else went because they were more stringent. But if it's for exercise, it's allowed. Bezrat Hashem. We'll continue this chapter tomorrow. We'll learn about buying new cars.